Everyone, we are here for our regular town council meeting in August. It's August 9th, 2022. We have all of council here with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem. So thank you all and good to see everyone. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Wood?
Please pray with me. I just want to take a moment and just say lots of people carry heavy burdens in this world, and some of the folks in Bluffton are no exception, just trying to get by, put gas in the tank, feed the children, take care of their families. I ask we don't lose sight of that ever. It's a loving town. It's a loving community. And when you have the bricks piled up too high, take a breath, go out into the community, enjoy the parks and the river and the things that we have here to avail us of God's nature and lift our spirits. And that I ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Very nice prayer. Thank you.
We have an adoption agenda on item 4. Mr. Stace, is there any change on the agenda?
No, ma'am.
No changes. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's 4, unanimous. We are starting to have executive session early, so if there is a motion, is there a motion to go into executive session for 4 items relating to negotiations and contractual arrangements for proposed land acquisition in Old Town, May River Road, Jones Estate, Bluffton Parkway, and Buckwalter Commons? That's FOIA 3470A2 for legal advice regarding intergovernmental agreement with Beaufort County for the collection of development impact fees. That is FOIA number 3470A2. And personnel matters relating to Town of Bluffton Police Department, FOIA 3470A1. And finally, personnel matters relating to a continuation of town manager's annual review, and that is FOIA 33. Is it 3?
Should be 30.
3470A1.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that's unanimous. We will go out, and if there's any action from executive session, we will take that action after we come back. Good evening, everyone. No action was taken, and we are now back to our regular council meeting. There is no action from executive session. Next is the adoption of minutes. These are minutes from July 12th. If there are no changes, or are there changes or edits? If not, is there a motion to accept the meeting minutes of July 12th, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Good.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Next is presentations, celebrations, and recognitions, and we start off with introduction of new employees and recognition of promotions. Mr. Steese.
So I'm Annie. She's in the hallway. You can grab Annie.
Annie's coming.
We're gonna have the department heads introduce.
Okay. Annie? Oh, Annie's contributing. Chris, you're up.
All right, so I'm going to go first with my staff. First, we have Shannon Milroy. She's our new budget and procurement analyst. She was a grants administrator for Beaufort County, former procurement director in West Virginia, I believe. And she went to the University of West Virginia. So welcome, Shannon.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah was recently promoted from a contract director. She is now a treasury coordinator up front at the front desk, and she's also been an intern with the town in the past. So welcome Hannah and her promotion.
Welcome.
We have Kim Roche from DRCI. She's our new innovation manager. Her position is funded through our ARPA program, and she started a business in St. Kitts called Baby on the Go-Go, and she's leveraging those skills to help mentor small businesses in Bluffton.
Welcome. Yes.
And then Felicia Roth is recently
new
promoted
haircut.
to Director of Compliance and Contracts. She's been with us for several years now as our Director of Procurement, and now she's our Compliance and Contracts Director. So
Congrats.
congratulations.
And welcome to all of your
And then finally, Christine Smith.
Christine.
She has been in HR for several years as well, and she's recently promoted to the Human Resources Manager. So congratulations to Christine. She primarily supports PD.
Welcome again, and congratulations, not a welcome, congratulations, Christine, well deserved.
Those are all my areas.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hi.
from the Growth Management Department, we have Mary Sue McIntyre. She just started with us 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, 1 week ago. She is our part-time receptionist. She reports to Liz up at front in customer service, and she's currently also a server at Dockside on the island. So glad to have her here.
Thank you, welcome.
I also have Mark Takis. He is our building inspector too. You've actually been with us for how long now?
February.
Since February? Okay. It seems longer than that. So he
not
reports to
great
Marcus, one of our building inspectors. He was a trainer and operator at Robertson's Ready Mix in California, correct?
Wow.
So big move. I'm
Welcome.
glad to have him here. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Mayor and Council, this evening we have to introduce to you for the Project and Watershed Resilience Department, Ms. Sam Crotty, who's in the Watershed Management Division as a stormwater technician, reporting to Bill Bauer, and comes to us from Pennsylvania with a Bachelor of Science degree in Geology from the Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. We also have Ms. Christina Hurd, who's in the Watershed Management Division, also reporting to Bill, and she's our stormwater coordinator and field assistant, coming to us with a BS from Uscb and graphic design certification from SCAD.
Wow,
We
congrats, welcome.
then also have a promotion to announce. Ms. Andrea Moreno was promoted to MS4 Program Manager in June of this last year, and she just celebrated her 7-year anniversary with us over this past
Wow,
weekend.
congrats.
Congrats. She also could be a police officer, I told her the other night. She's scary.
Very good at
She's
what
very
she does.
scary.
She's very good at what she does.
Yes, she is.
And then in our project management division, we have Ms. Meg James, who's reporting to Pat Rooney as a CIP administrator. And Meg comes to us with an associate's degree in office management from the Technical College of the Low Country. And then, also great place to see, we have Ms. Constance Clarkson, who was promoted to project manager in April of this year. And she's doing stellar work as well.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
I think this might be a good time while the people are here, and I know after public comment, people leave, but I'm going to, on behalf of council, wish you the best, Tommy. This is his last council meeting here, and I hope you will send us your new email address, because you'll have to send you emails to see if there's phishing or we can open it. But you have been a true delight, and we're really, really going to miss you.
Thank you, Mom.
And you're
I
always
appreciate it.
welcome home.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
And
I enjoyed my 7+ years here. So, we have 2 promotions in IT. First up is Joni Graybill. She is now our Applications Development Administrator. She'll be managing all of our software for the town, and she's been here since December 2016, so almost 6 years. And next up is Bob Charles. He is now our Law Enforcement Technology Specialist. He's been here since June of 2018. He manages all the police equipment, software, all the fun on the PD side.
He's cleaning up that office too. I saw it the other day. It's a nice little order office. You don't know what's there and why it's there, but
All kinds of good equipment.
yeah,
But-
if y'all need all kind of cords, go and see him, because he's got a million of them.
But thank you,
Good.
Mayor and Council.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
See you at your lunch.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Derek. You look very nice.
I'm here to introduce Antonio Robinson, who's a new hire, but he had a conflict today with his family, so he couldn't be here. But he comes from us from CSA for 9 years as a crew leader, and he's been here about a month. So he seems very happy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing him.
And I just wanted to introduce Tia Bowers. She couldn't be here because she's not feeling well, so she stayed home today. But
Good.
Tia, as you probably already know, works for Debbie. She reports to Debbie in our Communications and Community Outreach Department. She is a digital communications manager. She started in February, I believe, maybe March. She comes to us from Low Country Alliance for Healthy Youth. She was a grant project coordinator, and she has her bachelor's degree from USCB, and she has a graphic design certificate from SCAD.
Wow.
So she couldn't be here, but we are really loving Tia and her services.
Good.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, please.
Hello and good evening. First, we have Miss Lisa Rehill. She works, of course, for the police department as an evidence and records administrator. She reports to J.C. Ruiz, and her prior employment was medical records specialist and auditor with the Outpatient Surgery Center of Hilton Head. So she works up front, so when you all come up front, you'll be seeing Miss Lisa.
Good evening.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Alex.
This is Alex Lamb. He is Police Officer 1. He reports currently to Sergeant Michael Dietz. He is still in FTO phase. Prior employment was Belfair Golf Club in Bluffton, and he has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Appalachian State University.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Good.
There you go. This is Stephanie Pasquale. She's coming to us as Police Officer 1. She has not made it to the academy yet. We're still waiting academy dates, so she's studying hard with her pre-qual. And she reports to Michael Dietz, and prior employment was a certified occupational therapy assistant with Encompass Rehabilitation Hospital. She has a Bachelor of Science in Exercise and Sports Science from Temple University.
And I believe
Welcome.
about to get married.
Yes, sir, I am.
October?
October 1st.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much
Welcome.
for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have many promotions, as you all know, and so our first is going to be promotion to PO2, so that's Police Officer 2. So this is somebody that has been with us at least a couple of years and has graduated to the second level of police officer, and this is Officer Franken. So he's our new PO2.
Congrats. Thank you for being here.
Next, we have our corporal promotions. Go ahead and come on up, folks. As you can see, we've had several corporal promotions. We have Corporal Akil Brown, Corporal Amanda Lichtefeld, Corporal Dan Marciano, Corporal James Perkins, and Corporal Dan Rickett.
Thank you.
And the sergeants are next. Next, we have our sergeants. This is, he was promoted to Sergeant, Adam Knopf, and we have Zach Couchprom here as Sergeant. So you'll see them out in the field. They're currently assigned to patrol right now.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see
Glad to have
that.
them both. He's worked really hard. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yes. You may leave.
And we have a familiar face here, as I'm sure you all know. Brand new lieutenant's coming on up who got promoted, and he is out in patrol with us as well. So Destasio here got promoted to lieutenant. So Lieutenant John Destasio. Thank you very much.
I know where to find.
He's still going to hang in Old Town. I already told him he can't leave. Can't leave anywhere in town. So is that all? Let me, again, there's Sergeant Carafa. While we have Sergeant Carafa and Officer Moore, thank you. They're our new town patrol in the original square mile. But I want to highlight you, Sergeant. Come here, up here, so we can embarrass you a little bit, but really a much needed thank you. Sergeant Carafa was on his way. He was off duty. He was on his way, I think, home. He heard a call on the car about a lost man and dog, and he decided to pull over, and he actually heard a noise, and it was the gentleman from Sun City, Jasper. It wasn't even in Bluffton. The Beaufort County Sheriff's helicopter was flying above, and he got out, and he heard the call, and he was able to rescue the dog and the man on his day off. And that is the true culture. Remember I said that the other day? You live and breathe the culture of that. And I heard at the ceremony, he actually almost passed out again, and there you were. So I think you probably should just move in. He wants you. But I just wanted you to know that. We were made aware of that this past week, and I just think that's wonderful, and it is. We're celebrating, and you're a real mentor for people like Officer Moore, who just started the force, and thank you.
Thank you.
He's out there securing town hall for us. So, and Officer Moore, it is great to see you walking around. You're playing basketball with the kids, and you are a kid in a cop uniform. But thank you. We really appreciate all you do. Just getting that connection with our youth. So, next is Uscb Sand Shark Proclamation, and who is here? And while I walk down, Stephen, when will our banners, or Derek, when will our banners be up? Monday. You're here, Carol's wearing many hats, and now you're here. So thank you for coming to take this. Whereas the University of South Carolina Beaufort is a fully accredited, comprehensive baccalaureate institution within the University of South Carolina system. USCB provides specialized instruction in 19 undergraduate degree programs and 2 graduate degrees to fulfill its mission to respond to regional needs, draw upon regional strengths, and prepare graduates to contribute locally, nationally, and internationally. USCB is a primary regional resource for exceptionally skilled healthcare professionals, teachers, hospitality managers, science-based researchers, and computational troubleshooters in the South Carolina Lowcountry. USCB has a reputation for institutional prominence as a regional problem solver, catalyst for progress, and an engine for economic growth. Whereas reports on the economic impact of higher education in Beaufort County indicate that 1,066 jobs, we hired somebody, Use that.
Thank you.
$50.5 million in additional wage and salary income, $122.4 million in economic output, and $1.6 million in net government revenue are attributable to USCB each year. Thank you, Senator Davis, for providing parity with this school.
Yes.
Whereas this week, USCB welcomes more than 2,100 students, their parents, other family members, and friends to campuses in Bluffton, Beaufort, and now Hilton Head Island, and to athletic facilities in Hardyville for the start of the 2022-2023 athletic year. So we, myself, along with council, proclaimed the week of August 17th to the 24th as USCB Sand Shark Welcome Week.
Thank you very much.
So you will see banners up along our roadways. Please report to the
I
students.
will come and do the video for social media. That machine that goes up and goes up is cool, and I will be there until
Okay, Derek, you see her.
We'll do it again. Thank you. And I just want everyone's sticker that we give to the students when they come back. They come back on Sunday. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Senator Davis, I told you a lot sooner than where we are, but there's a lot going on in Bluffton. Senator Davis is here. He's been around the county and Hilton Head, and he emailed me on a whole nother issue, so I called him out and said, you need to come see this council because this is where you live now. Your district.
Soon will be. A nice lot on the corner of Alljoy and Crystal Beach, so really excited about that there. So I can appreciate the invitation to present to you all. And before I do talk about the green space, I do want to talk about USCB since you just did a recognition. When I first took office some 14 years ago, it was funded at 38% of the statewide average per pupil. And the delegation has worked very hard over the last 14 years, and we're now up to 100% parity with every other institution in South Carolina in the system. So USCB is something that we continually try to advocate for. We had $17 million in this year's budget for capital improvements, $7 million for deferred maintenance, and $10 million for a new convocation center, which, as you may know, Mayor, is going to allow them to move upward in the NCAA rankings and offer basketball and other things like that. So it's really a shot in the arm for USCB. I'm excited about that. Also excited about this green space program that Beaufort County Council gave third and final reading to last night. And essentially what it does is this. There'll be on the ballot this November a referendum where the voters will be asked whether or not they want a penny sales tax for a period of 2 years or to raise $100 million, whichever occurs first. It's projected that a 2-year penny sales tax will collect about $100 million, so the two may be relatively the same, but that's the parameters of this. And the reason that I think it's an effective tool is that unlike prior initiatives, these proceeds or the revenues that are generated will allow the county to issue bonds for $100 million immediately and then amortize those bonds with the sales taxes as they're collected. And then the county council, with whatever processes it puts in place, whether it's in the Rural and Critical Lands, whether it's the Coastal Conservation League, can identify tracts of land to set aside for green space, but also allows it to purchase up densities. Because, as you know, in a lot of instances, we've already, through PUDs or development agreements or even by right zoning, there's already a number of units that are kind of lying in wait to be built. And if we simply allow everything that's been permitted or authorized by law to be built, we're looking at about a doubling of the rooftops in southern Beaufort County and southern Jasper County over the next several years. So, and you guys have really been in the forefront of emphasizing the impact that would have on the May River, on the other rivers here. I noticed on the way in, there's a sign, reminding us to keep the May River clean. I mean, you guys have always been at the forefront with that. I really think this is going to be a tool to kind of complement those efforts that you've been making and provide us with the financial resources to take some densities off the book, to purchase up some undeveloped tracts that are slated for development, and to quite frankly prevent from happening what I saw happen when I grew up in Maryland. I grew up and saw the Chesapeake Bay absolutely degraded. All the economic development in mid-Atlantic region, overpopulated, drained into the Chesapeake Bay, ruined it for generations to come, and it's now costing several $billions in a period of 30 years to try to reclaim it. We still have an opportunity here in Beaufort County to prevent that from happening here, and I think this is a really great step forward. The task now will be to come before groups like yours and solicit, hopefully, your support for it. Talk to civic groups, Rotary groups, clubs, things of that nature. It's always an uphill battle whenever you ask people to impose a tax on themselves. But I would submit that over the last couple decades, Beaufort County voters have shown a willingness to tax themselves to pay for open space. The bond referendums for the rural and critical land programs usually are approved by 72 to 73% of the vote. So if we go out there and we do our job, I think it's something we can be successful at. I'm happy to answer questions about the program in its particulars if you'd like, Mayor, or I could go on and talk about some other things that we also accomplished this session that I think are of interest to you.
Well, I think there are questions.
Sure.
I know we all have a few, and it's passed, and it's a county vote, and but I do have some questions on that. But do y'all want to hear a few while we have you? We love
Sure.
that you're here, and also the invite to the delegation breakfast from Hardyville, which is at Soloco. I hope
That's a breakfast, right? It's on my
Yeah,
calendar. I'll be
great.
there later
Look
this
forward to
month.
seeing you. So go over a few things if you'd like.
Yeah, let me, if I could approach and pass, I'm not in court, if I can approach.
This is a letter that our delegation recently sent to Secretary Hall. And what we're doing here, Mayor,
is, and I'll read a piece of it because I think it's important to emphasize on page 2, the first full paragraph. It talks about all of the state and federal monies that are now sort of, sloshing around up there in Columbia for roads and bridges. I mean, it is truly extraordinary the kind of money that we currently have being pumped into the system. You all know about the $6 billion from the bipartisan federal infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress. What you might not know is that our portion of that is $6 billion, but it's contingent upon us putting up a state match of $600 million over a period of 5 years. That's the period over which you can draw down the $6 billion. One of the things we did in this year's budget is appropriate $120 million of recurring money out of the general fund to put toward roads and bridges for the express purpose of being able to pull down that entire $6 billion. And so we did emphasize that. So you've got that $6 billion that's going to be allocated by Secretary Hall over the next 5 years to various projects. In addition to that, we took $134 million of non-recurring funds in this year's budget and put it toward rural infrastructure, interstate funding. On top of that, we went ahead and set aside $1 billion in a contingency fund to spend next year. And it's my expectation that a substantial portion of that money is going to go to roads and bridges. And so this letter was sent by Representative Bradley, myself, Representative Herb Krosman, and Representative Newton. We're the 4 state lawmakers representing southern Beaufort County. And there has been identified, as you know, some 4 major projects by Beaufort County. And there was an ad hoc committee that was chaired by Dean Moss to identify 4 projects that needed funding. And you can see them detailed on the first page there. Improvements to 170, improvements to 462, improvements to 278, and improvements to 46. The common thread in all those improvements is those are all necessary for evacuation routes. They're identified by the DOT as being, and you can see in the last page, primary arteries for individuals when they exit the area in the event that there is a need to evacuate. And so we had a meeting with Secretary Hall. When I say we, I mean our delegation. She came down here, she met with us, and we made our case for this funding. As you might imagine, there are 46 counties in South Carolina and representatives and senators from all those other counties, so they're also prevailing upon Secretary Hall. But I think we have a good chance at getting a chunk of the money needed for those 4 critical projects from the money that's currently up there in Columbia. So I wanted to let you know that is something that we are focusing on. The money has been provided. And as is so often the case, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. I mean, if you're up there and you have a cohesive plan and you have a coordinated approach, you can be successful. We saw that work. There was a collective effort for the $120 million we got from the State Infrastructure Bank for the new Hilton Head bridges. I mean, that's an example of what we can do when we all work together as a team. The delegation, y'all, county council, and I think we can do that again in regard to these road projects. But I'll pause with that, and you said that there may be some questions, Mayor Salka, so I'll be happy to answer them.
I just have a question on this. You know, we have LATS, which you sit on that committee. We don't see our delegation there at all since the bridge money came. And I think that LATS committee, which is the policy committee, which are the elected officials of all the areas, have tried to triangulate above the county. And the county has even said we'd like to have a master list. And I would love to invite you to show them, because some of these are not on the master list, and even some wording from that committee. You know, I wish people would realize that's a scenic byway from 46-315, and Jared still has not given us an answer, is if you widen it, does the scenic designation go away? And it was wanted by so many people living here, and they really want us to have it to be a federally designated.
The highway, or the projects here, Mayor Salka, the 4 that are listed on here, were identified and separated out because they are emergency evacuation routes, and that improves your chances of getting an allocation of money from the SCDOT when they allocate the dollars. So it's not meant to be that these are more important than the other projects that you identified.
One of them is that.
Okay.
Your
Okay.
4th one, and the wording was taken away from that committee that we were trying to get the transportation penny for. Anyway, it's just a thought, but I think it's better to discuss that at a LATS meeting.
Okay.
So we'll make sure we have.
And I'm not sure who, I mean, I was on there for a while as chairman of the delegation. That's who has a seat there. I don't know who the chairman, I think Weston may be the chairman of the delegation now.
All of y'all are listed as ex officio.
Okay, so I had understood that it was the chairman of the delegation that had a right to participate.
I will make sure, because I know
Yeah.
you were the only one that
Yeah,
showed up.
and then when I rotated off, I stopped, but I'd welcome to come again. I didn't just want to
I will find
crash
out.
the party.
You never crash, never. Okay, so do y'all want to go back to the green penny questions, or really ask them anything while we have them? It'd be great. So,
Yeah, I'll start. And thank you for everything you do. I'm a fan of yours. You do a great job, and you bring a lot of value to Beaufort County. I was befuddled with this whole process. I mean, we weren't part of it. We weren't included in the discussions or early on or anything. And, you know, so it kind of caught us by surprise, because I think some of us were supporting the transportation penny sales tax. We allocated a person to represent our town on there. And you see, you do outline the needs on here clearly. And this is the first time I've seen this. This came out July the 7th. And, you know, here we are in August, so I'm glad I'm getting to see this now, because I didn't know what to make of everything. I was afraid that by going for the penny on the green space sales tax, we were cutting our nose off with the transportation issues. But it sounds like you're trying to thread that needle.
Here's what I think the reasoning was, and I can't speak for county council, but I was there during their deliberations. First of all, the green space bill, and I was the author of this bill, didn't get passed until the very last day of session. Okay, so it was in late May that it was signed into law by the governor. And as soon as it was signed into law by the governor, you know, I said, okay, well, the referendums, if it's going to be held, have to be in general election years, which means 2022, 2024, 2026. And I felt that 2024 was going to be too late. The horse is going to get out of the barn. I mean, you drive down 170 and 278, and you can see all the development. I don't need to tell you about that. You understand that. And so I then went to county council immediately and said, I got this law passed. It allows you all, if you want to do it, to put a penny sales tax on this year's ballot or for a referendum. I think it's important. I think it's an existential problem here. I think that if you simply allow all the approved densities to become realities, we're going to lose the thing that makes this place special. And so I did advocate for the inclusion of this on the ballot in November. I did not do so to the exclusion of the penny sales tax for the roads. That was a decision by county council. I mean, I think it failed on a 5-5 vote to go forward on it. But I readily admit that I directed a lot of my energies to this. It's something that I've been passionate about for a while. I was hopeful at some point in time that the Rural and Critical Land Program was going to be sufficient to address the problem. But I quickly realized, seeing the development that's occurred over the last couple of years, particularly in southern Beaufort County, that something more substantial is going to be necessary. And so I was an advocate for this. I did not advocate against the penny sales tax for the roads. I want to see something like that pass. But I'll say this. I think it would have been an uphill battle getting a penny sales tax passed for transportation projects when you aren't able to say to the public first that you've done everything in your power to get those projects funded by the state using these existing resources. It's a question of diligence. And so when you're out there making your case, I could see the arguments coming from skeptics, and the last road referendum failed because there are skeptics out there, saying, well, what have you done to try to get money from the state, given all this federal money that's coming down? This letter that I drafted then was in response to that, so that we can show that we're making that effort, so that we are trying to get monies from Columbia, so that when we do go, I guess now it'll be in 2024, we do go to the people for a referendum, we can say in good faith, we tried to get these things funded with the state and federal dollars. We tried our best. We had a coordinated approach, look at all these things that we did, and that really is going to bolster your case for getting that referendum passed in 2024. So that's the first thing I think County Council was considering. The second was, which of the two presents a more exigent problem? Which one is immediate? Which one is really facing us and time is of the essence? And I think County Council concluded that the need to try to control densities to preserve open space was a more immediate problem, one that was happening right in front of us, at least relative to the road penny. But again, you'd have to ask County Council for what their reasons were, but listening to them, that's what I inferred from the deliberations.
A couple more things, and that's a vast, broad explanation, and I appreciate it. Again, you've given me a whole lot more information than I've even considered. You know, one thing about the Green Space Act, and I understand, you know, it came from the state, and don't get me wrong, I think green space is wonderful, and buying up density, if possible, is wonderful, because it's an obstacle that we've always had to deal with here locally, and we would love to be able to do that. But one thing is, the way the act is written by the state is the only proprietor of decision-making process is the county, and I don't know how that's going to play out in the future. Another part of it is the Jasper County area, I think, are limited, and when I know we're talking Beaufort County, now I'm talking Jasper County, they're limited on being able to apply this act to their needs, I think. I think they're taxed out or maxed out on their taxing. And so we've got to figure out how to deal with that at some point, because the explosion of growth, as you well know, Senator Davis, at Hardeeville and Jasper County impacts Beaufort County, and our growth impacts them as well. So it's the regional thing. So,
and that's an excellent point. And in drafting this legislation, and what's included in there is that the dollars that are raised by Beaufort County, if this referendum is approved, can be used specifically to purchase space outside the county. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, the impact of the environment doesn't respect county lines, okay? So if you've got development happening up in the headwaters up in Jasper County, that's going to impact the quality of our river system here. So this Green Space Act authorizes the county to make purchases outside of the county, recognizing the regional nature of the problem. In terms of the county being the one that makes the preservation procurements, as it's called in the Act, you're right. It is the county council that ultimately is going to be making the decisions on which tracts to acquire, which densities to acquire, whether to get fee simple title, whether to get conservation easements. I mean, there's a variety of tools. But what the Act contemplates and says is that Beaufort County has to put in place a system and a process and then publish that in the newspaper prior to the referendum as to how they intend to go about deciding what preservation procurements are going to be made. So there is a requirement that Beaufort County Council put something in place and publish that. And I would like to see Beaufort County Council involve the municipalities in that. The second thing I would say is the Act requires that the green space appropriations, that the procurements, they have to be equitably distributed throughout the county. Okay, they can't be concentrated exclusively in one area. And that language was added during the legislative process because there was some concern by some that certain areas of the county that were going to be favored over others. So that language in regard to an equitable allocation was included in there so that, Hilton Head and Bluffton and Beaufort and Port Royal and the MSC and the various areas in the county all had a stake in this and all had the ability to put forward things that they felt were appropriate. And the Act on the face requires you to spread the money out throughout the county.
May I ask one more, or you want me to wait?
One more.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. You wanna do
One more
your
question. So looking at the big picture and looking at the regionalism that's so important to all of us, and this is a good tool. I support that. I get the idea. Are we still hopeful for the Jasper Port? Because I see a conundrum there. I mean, we're already having these discussions about transportation, roads, growth, so forth and so on. And the Jasper Port is a mega giant. It'd be the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and it would forever change everything around here within many, many miles.
Right.
Are we still supporting that?
Yeah, what's happening there, Mr. Wood, is you're already seeing in southern Jasper County distribution centers, logistics facilities, millions of square feet are being built, not only in Riverport, but in the adjacent track, the Sherwood track. North Point just bought a piece of that. So you're seeing, not necessarily the Jasper Port per se, but you're seeing the Port of Savannah is at a room on its side of the river to have the infrastructure to support their operations. So they're spilling over and they're absorbing southern Jasper County into their economic sphere. So that is happening. And the more and more southern Jasper County becomes integrated into the Savannah Port operations, the logical next step is the Jasper Port, which is at the mouth of the Savannah River and which has the ability to service the post-Panamax ships that have a height in carrying 20,000, 24,000 TEUs. They can't get under the Talmadge Bridge, much less they can't navigate that channel. So in the short term, you're going to see development there ancillary to the existing Savannah Port operations. But yes, you are going to see the Jasper Port because the markets are shifting to these large post-Panamax ships that they're going to need a port at the mouth of the river to service. And that really emphasizes, or really underlines and underscores the need to be aggressive in regard to our preservation efforts now, because that commercial development and bringing the private capital and bringing the jobs, which we all support, creates pressure on where people want to live. And where they want to live is in Bluffton. They want. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the state. I think the most beautiful part of the state. So they're going to come here. So I think it's important for us to get ahead of the curve. And it's my hope that this 2-year $100 million for preservation procurements is so successful and trust is built up with the public so that we can go back, and this is the first step in a rolling series of bonds that we do. And so I think it's in Beaufort County's best interest, and I'm certainly going to prevail upon them, to engage the town of Bluffton, to engage the town of Hilton Head, to engage the city of Beaufort, the town of Port Royal, and the MSC, and to bring them on board because we're all in this together. And if it's successful and it's perceived by people as being successful, it'll be self-renewing over time. But we got one chance to get it right.
Let's get other questions. 'cause we
Sure,
do have-
I apologize.
No, and we're going to see you at SoLoco too, so that could be expanded. Did you have a question?
Senator Davis, thank you for being here today, and I appreciate your leadership with the passion that you're showing for these projects. But for the sake of time, thanks to Dan, I'm gonna give my time to Bridget.
We'll see you at SoLoco. You'll
Yield
be
the
at
balance of
SoLoco.
your time? Okay. Ms. Frazier.
Which isn't very much, Bridget.
Right. Just in echoing the sentiments of my fellow council members, thank you again for taking the time to come out and explain and clarify the gist of this act and what all it entails with it. But I do have a question, seeing how our roads were definitely already taxed and kind of overburdened even before the explosion that we've seen with our new data here with the census. I'm glad to see that some thought for mitigation towards, ensuring the safety of our roadways and the infrastructure of that is taking a forefront. But I do have questions specifically for residents who are going to ask questions in terms of the sales tax they'll see on this the upcoming ballot. Will the town receive its proportionate share of the tax revenue directly from the Department of Revenue?
No, what it directs the county to do, the dollars that accrue will go to Beaufort County Council, and they'll make the preservation procurement decisions. But they're constrained by the act in that regard. They have to be equitably distributed throughout the county. Okay, so that's the law. And because the green space referendum is unlike other referendums. For instance, a local option sales tax for roads typically has all the roads listed on the ballot. This is what we're going to do with the money, so voters are informed. That's not going to be the case with this. You don't know in advance how you're going to spend that $100 million, what developers are going to be reasonable, what landowners are going to be willing to sit down and negotiate a fair price. And so you can't be very specific up front and tell the voters. And so what we did is we built into the act an advisory committee, a 7-member advisory committee that is to monitor what Beaufort County does with those preservation procurements and make sure that it conforms with the requirements of the Act, one of those requirements being that there's an equitable allocation throughout the county. So, it's not a blank check that Beaufort County Council has, and this advisory committee supervises that. So I would say, Ms. Frazier, your assurance in regard to you getting a fair share is built in that language saying that the preservation procurements have to be equitably distributed throughout the county. And as a practical matter, as I'm standing here before you today, I think probably the area most in crisis is southern Beaufort County. I mean, that's the area that's seeing the explosion in growth. And, I can't predict in advance what's going to happen, but I would think that's where a lot of the focus is going to be, as to what we can do to avoid that development from impacting the environment around here, as you're well aware, with the May River, the Ocoee, Colton. So that's the answer to that. But there's not a proration of the dollars that are then given to the municipalities, if that's your question. That's not what occurs.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just final, and we can go more. I would encourage you to reach out to other municipalities. They weren't really thrilled about an article written today, which I think was
What was in the article today?
I don't read it. I don't read that paper, but it was misrepresenting what one of the county councilmen said, which he called me immediately and said that was not what I said. And I actually watched county council on video today. So they're frustrated, but I don't think they're frustrated at you as much as it's the county. No one's bringing what makes up, I think, more than half of the county are municipalities. So we are county residents too.
One thing I would say, and I'm not an apologist for Beaufort County Council, but I would say that there was a very short window of time here in that you had to get, if you wanted on the ballot in November, you had to submit something by August 15th, and it wasn't until late May that this law got passed. And so I'm not saying that they shouldn't reach out, but it was all kind of telescoped into a very short amount of time on the phone.
There are lots of ways to get to talk. Not your fault.
No,
So I have just a couple questions. Advocate versus educate. Is this the same process with elected officials on a penny being put on the ballot? Like with loss, we could only educate, we couldn't advocate. So what is the rule on that with this green penny?
I'm like you, Mayor Solka. I always think education is sort of the word you use, and you give unvarnished truth or facts as best you can. I mean, I'm the first to admit that when you're educating, probably the educator's bias probably comes through, but I understand that that's the constraint that's put on us in terms of trying to educate the voters.
So that was the biggest thing. I've been told, and I tried to read through this bill because we were at the municipal association when I heard about it. So I pulled up the bill the governor signed and way to think out of the box on it. But does it affect PUDs or development agreements? Because 92% of this town, and what will probably be similar in Hardyville and Beaufort County as well, to a great extent, are under those legally, you said it at the meeting.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So it's what the seller will take and what the buyer will pay. So you
Right.
say this, we can buy development rights, but if the seller's not willing to sell them, and can we go into the PUDs and the development agreements to somewhat at least start the conversation?
Yeah, I think, and that's a great point. And one of the reasons that the bill was drafted the way that it was, it talks about not only buying, getting conservation easements and buying fee simple title, it talks about buying up approved densities. It talks about, and that's really a new kind of a phenomenon, right? I mean, it's when you think of green space, you typically think of an open field that you're going to set aside and preserve forever. So it's a bit of a misnomer. What it allows to be done here, and what I anticipate will be done, is going into some of these large PUDs and negotiating with the developers to purchase some of these densities. And yes, I mean the Act specifically authorizes funds to be used for that purpose. But I think what has to happen, quite frankly, is you don't want to have on the one end dollars being raised to purchase densities and development agreements and PUDs, and then on the other hand, continuing to create more and more densities. There's got to be sort of an understanding among all of us in this county, and not pointing fingers at anybody. Because, I think, the county and municipalities, everybody, I mean, the growth has happened, and there's no sense in trying to wind the clock back and figure out why. We got to take the cards as they lay. But I think going forward, I think it would be a good idea, Mayor Solka, if all the municipalities entered into some sort of a memorandum of understanding with Beaufort County and for some long-term plan by saying, look, this is what we hope to accomplish over the next 2 decades. We're going to go ahead and try to purchase up densities, buy up open space, but on the other hand, we got to avoid the creation of the very problem we're trying to solve. And so I think by doing both those things, we can really, I'm really proud of Beaufort County to be the first county to step up and do this. This is a brand new preservation technique. A lot of people throughout the state are looking at Beaufort County. I've already gotten a lot of interest from people out of state saying this is a real out-of-the-box entrepreneurial way of solving the problem. I mean, other areas in the country have tried to solve this problem by downzoning, putting on moratoriums, doing things of that nature, which raises the problem of inverse condemnation. You might have a lawsuit brought against you. And so I think this way is really an innovative way, but it's going to take all of us working together. And if I can help, and one of the things that I'm going to start doing, Mayor Solka, is coming to your meetings on a regular basis, which I frankly should have done more of in the past. And I really haven't gone to any Town of Hilton Head meetings either, except recently because of Highway 278. And I haven't gone to many Beaufort County Council meetings except recently because I was asking for a green space. But I need to put on my calendar, when the meetings are in Beaufort and Port Royal and Bluffton and Hilton Head and Beaufort County, because I get a lot of information back from you. And to your point earlier, that communication, if I can facilitate that's going to be an important role that I can play.
Well, we can get you on the schedule for sure and give you
Sure.
a distribution list of what we think might gather everyone at one time. Because if not, we all meet second Tuesday of every month. So
Yeah.
who are you going to pick? I'd love an AG opinion I know they asked you about it on the development agreement, right, Heather? That was our.
May I approach?
But the development agreement area specifically, not just a PUD, because those are, we have many names for them. We weren't here when they were all signed. We're just dealing with the ramifications of them all.
It's under the Act, you'll find Mayor Solka, in pretty much all respects.
Stephen, I'll give you mine.
I'm sorry, I only brought
No, that's
four.
okay.
It's very broadly drafted to give broad powers to Beaufort County, because the point I made up in Columbia is We have a unique problem down here. I mean, there are some tracks that, yes, maybe we get conservation easements on or maybe purchase outright. But there are other tracks that are lying fallow now, but there's development agreements in place and the developer has density rights. And so we need to be expansive in regard to what the powers of preservation are. And so what I'd be interested in as well is how this works in practice. It's one thing to take something in legislation and putting it into practice, you know, where are the shortcomings? How could it be done better? Because I can then go back to Columbia next session in January and amend this. I mean, because we're sort of beta testing this. We're the ones that are doing it first. And so the lessons we learn from this can be used to further amend this to make it better and more useful to other areas of the state and to us. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? We will see you at the delegation breakfast.
I look forward to it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Public comment. Our town clerk will lead that. Kim, you're up.
Lynn Greeley.
And as they come forward, Ms. Greeley, let me just speak quickly because we do it we won't start your time, but please address council. Please avoid disrespect to council and any personalities. Confine yourself to questions under our jurisdiction. Basically, it's being mindful and respectful. And if you could, for the minutes, please state your name and your address before you start. So, good.
My actual address, or that I live in Hilton Head?
You'd like name and address, please, ma'am.
Okay, Lynn
Thank you.
Greeley. I'm at 8 Wax Myrtle Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. I have been following Skip Hoagland's exposure of corruption done by this council, and I have watched this council award and recognize many people. And today, the community wants to thank Skip Hoagland for all the great work that he has done, and also for everyone at scwatchdog.com. Because Skip Hoagland is here today, I would like to present Skip with an award on behalf of many in this community that fully support and respect Skip's efforts and dedication. We believe he is a hero and an American treasure. This is the Watchdog Citizen of the Year Award, and I'd like to read what's on the plaque. And, yeah, it's big. Anyway, there's your plaque, and I'm going to call you up in just a minute. But if I could just read, identifying corruption in the Palmetto State, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. We have the forbidden news and scwatchdog.com, but I want to read what we put on here. One man of passion can accomplish more than 1 million with just a passing interest. There are 3 classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. That was Leonardo da Vinci, 1484. People need dramatic examples to shake them out of their apathy and their dishonesty. So I'd like to, if you would come up and have this award. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
No.
Kate, Krish. How lovely.
Again, name and address. Kate. Good evening.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Salka. My name is Kate Creech. My address is 17 Mullet, but I refer to it as 70 Boundary, as that has become my home away from home. I'm still serving as the interim director at the Hayward House Museum and Welcome Center. I come before you today with a few, more than 5, less than 10 updates. The first is that we hosted our annual board meeting on July 23rd at the Colcock Teal House. While it was a small gathering, we hope for a slightly larger crowd next year. We are getting there. Our 2 new board members were officially elected at the annual meeting, Katie Epps and Paul Tollefson, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. For numbers, we surpassed our goal for visitor foot traffic for our fiscal year 21-22. We were 42% above our gold number. The gold number was 11,500. We were nearly at 16,500 total visitors. We were 92% to goal for our impact visitors, those being non-locals. A capital improvement project of of the exterior of the home is well underway and going swimmingly, thanks to David Pratt and his crew of hard workers. We're slowly but surely gaining more traction on our new membership and hope to have new cards in by the end of September. I have stickers as well for everyone. And I am currently in the process of training for our new donor software program that will serve as a more efficient way to communicate with the public and our members. I'm in the process of planning the Boiled Peanut Festival, and I'm very excited to partner with some new and local vendors this year for what is typically our biggest fundraiser. Bridget, we'll meet sometime soon. But mark your calendars. The festival is Saturday, September 24th. Right now we're planning on 12 to 6 p.m. We are aiming to have a membership event next spring. I'm currently making lists, lots of lists, to hopefully bring on some volunteers that have expressed interest to help with the workload that is currently on my plate. Number 9, so more than 5, less than 10. Number 9, I'm working on partnering with some local historical entities to form a joint Facebook page. This Facebook page will tell the all-encompassing history of Bluffton's people, places, and culture, not an opinionated, but a historical page. In closing, there's always room for improvement, and we at the Hayward House Museum and Welcome Center and the Historic Bluffton Foundation, thank you for continuing to believe in our mission and the hard work we are putting in to keep the ship afloat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I give these to you?
Give them to Kim.
Okay. I think there's 10, but I have a lot more.
That's right.
Andrew Keel.
Who did you say? Kim?
Andrew Keel.
Andrew Keel. Good evening, Mr. Keel. Name and address, please.
Andrew Keel, 22 Trail Ridge Retreat. I've just started coming to town hall meetings and planning meetings and things like that. However, this is the second town hall meeting I've been to, and the executive sessions seem to run a little long. I don't know if it's a rule of order, but maybe put them in the back or put a time limit so the town knows when to show up as opposed to just waiting around. Anyhow, I was at the Planning Commission on 7/27, and it lasted long. It didn't end until about 10:45. One of the reasons was 3 of the developers on there, I believe, came unprepared. Well, they were prepared, however, their submittals at the Planning Commission were incomplete. Missing exhibits, things like that, so the Planning Commission had to ask a lot of questions. I'm asking that please have the town try to have the developers follow the rules, have all their submittals in before they come to a meeting, so things get done. Next thing, I've been at the special planning committee meetings. I've been able to attend, I think, 2 of the 4, but they're a little depressing. And the reason they're depressing is the growth is out of control. I'm glad the senator was here today and talking about this, the green space tax, or the tax to buy green space. But, I guess my question is, is the town going to try to do something other than this in terms of trying to pass ordinances to get the PUDs to build things that we want? I mean, for example, at the Planning Commission meeting, D.R. Horton wanted to convert residential/commercial area just to residential. And they said they've been trying to sell the commercial area and have been unsuccessful. Whether or not that's true, who knows? But then they fall back on the threat that all the developers are using is, well, if you don't do what we want and amend this plan, we're just going to build what was approved 15 years ago. And I mean, that's a pretty tired argument. Maybe it's time for the town to figure out a way under the, 631-110 or whatever the PUD development agreement statute is to fight back against these guys, because there are provisions that say for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, if you have a notice in a hearing, you can pass ordinances that apply. And I think it's time to start doing that. Thank you.
sir. Thank you, sir. Sharon Brown. Name and address. Good evening.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Sharon Brown. I live at 163 Buck Island Road. It's good to see you guys. Want to give a shout out to the town for partnering with me with the Back to School Fund Day, Lindy. Thank you so much. Very successful. Now, I always like to go back to the town mission statement. We take care of our citizens, the town, and each other by continuously making our community and organization better. Back in 2018, the town purchased 37 acres at New Riverside. The purchase was aligned with council maintaining a sense of community. Now, I need you town council people to help preserve property in the native areas. You have developers buying up these native property, and they're building all these condos, townhouses, things that impede on our community, which does not help the natives. So we can stop future development that could box the native in and change the fabric of neighborhood. For example, the upcoming project that's on Ballfield Road and across from the Bluffton Eagles Field. Now, we have Miss Nellie Brown property, 3 acres, and the property across from Scott and Grobble, which are both black-owned property. We need you guys to think about preserving them. We need green space. We need to know that black people lived here. We can't even see ourselves. Why? Because the property is being bought up by what? Developers finding the weakest link. Now, you town council people, I know you see it. We have our Gullah Geechee people, we have our native people here, and the property is being bought up, and you guys aren't trying to buy any green space for Native Americans. You did it for New River, 37 acres. What about trying to preserve 3 acres, one across from Squat and Gobble? You town council people got to do better. Our tax dollars, we are in the town of Bluffton as well. And black people were the first people that were on Calhoun Street and everywhere else, and we cannot see them. So for the developers who come in and buy these properties and not trying to help the workforce people even have an affordable place to live, and really don't care when you got houses, $300,000 and $400,000 for one house, people have to work 15 jobs just to make ends meet to afford something like that. And I need you guys to start caring more about our black people in this community. Thank you so much.
Skip Hoagland.
Skip Hoagland. Name and address, sir.
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. You're in violation of FOIA. Ms. Selka, I celebrated the $50 million award in your frivolous defamation lawsuit. Your ambulance chasing Murdoch lawyer was able to win purely on your crocodile tears, your drama, legal theatrical play with no evidence or supporting law that defamed you. Facts support everything I said about you, Orlando and Finger, is true. I did not defame you. You defamed yourself because of your perjury, your lies, and your conflicts. The bar has been set at $50 million. Fair is fair. I filed a lawsuit against you for violating my free speech with the video evidence. Your lawsuit was baseless, specifically filed to silence my voice, obscenely profit you and your Murdoch's lawyers' corrupt pockets. It's my right to criticize public officials as I see fit. You have a likable cheerleader personality, but your corrupt actions speak louder than your words. I contend you lied and committed perjury, which is a crime. You illegally did a membership drive using town employees to profit your crooked friend Bill Miles of the Hilton Head Chamber that harmed your own official Greater Bluffton Chamber. You illegally used tax money to join the town of Bluffton as a Hilton Head Chamber member, quid pro quo, not the legally operated Greater Bluffton Chamber until I forced you. You are illegally issuing tax funds to the Hilton Head Chamber to be illegally used with zero accounting, violating FOIA laws and FOIA, versus hiring your official Bluffton Chamber. You're a full-time real estate agent, part-time mayor using your insider status to profit your real estate business. Town lawyer Finger the same for his real estate developer clients. You're both in severe conflict. We need officials with no horses in the race who represent taxpayers' best interests, not their own. Total disregard for overdevelopment and traffic that's just unbearable. Finger developed a fraudulent ATAX contract for the illegal Hilton Head Chamber. He schemed this with Orlando and the Hilton Head lawyers to hide tax accounting. Finger lied, and yes, we all got the middle finger. Ms. Selka, You, Finger Orlando, are not fit to serve. I demand a forensic audit on town records. Your internal hired audits is a fraud, since this town has already been caught at illegal acts and only shows the accounting that taxpayers, that insiders want us to see. Only a forensic audit will identify crimes like fraud, embezzlement, illegal tax use, and overcharged legal fees like happened on Hilton Head with lawyer Alfred and Finger's friend. Do you deny my facts? And Ms. Salk, I got a surprise for you. We have your emails with Bill Miles, Likens, and Harkins captured from your servers, and I'm going to be using this in your lawsuit that's coming up in December. This article that you publish in a magazine about ATEX funds is a fraud, and this will be one of the many exhibits in your lawsuit that I'm suing you on. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Public comment, any others?
One more.
I'd like to just correct the record. Mr. Hoagland has many times indicated that he has sued you, Mayor Salka. In fact, that is not true. His lawsuit is against the town of Bluffton, not against you personally. So he is wrong yet again on a fact.
Well, let me change that. Let's sue the town.
The next public comment?
Larry Baker.
Larry Baker, name and address, please, sir.
Larry Baker. I live at 1503 Cooks Landing Road in Hardyville.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure. Mayor Salka and Councilor, my name is Larry Baker, and I appreciate your time. I'm a member of the Disabled American Veterans in Beaufort for Chapter 12, and in honor of Bluffton and part of our chapter, we want to donate a wheelchair-accessible picnic table. I was talking to your council and some other folks about putting it in one of your parks, and it's a wheelchair-accessible picnic table. What had happened, a veteran was at a park in Charleston, I think in November. He was in a wheelchair. During the day, some folks had helped him get out of his wheelchair to enjoy a picnic table with some friends. During that day, some people were coming and going, and he was not able to get out of the picnic table and get back to his chair. So luckily, a park ranger was closing the park down, saw a car in the parking lot. He went back through his park, found this veteran that he couldn't get to his wheelchair because his phone was in his bag. So it made everybody kind of stop and think, you know, we got to do something for everybody. So other people started talking about it, and we built some picnic tables that are wheelchair accessible. They're able to, this table here, they're able to slide their wheelchair in and be part of their family and friends and kind of being set apart. So we're donating that in honor of our veterans and anybody else that needs that's in a wheelchair. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Public comment is over. Communications from mayor and council, and I was about to respond to one of the comments from that gentleman, and I think Stephen's connecting them, so we don't have to talk about that. And what a kindness. More people should be that way. Anyone from council, any comments, any statements, anything going on? You had, I saw on social media, the Gullah Geechee event at Oyster Factory Park. I hope that was successful. We've got a lot going on for those of you who want to follow us. We have many social media sites that you can follow to see what's going on. You can have input on our Green Blueprint Bluffton. Still, we have a few workshops there, and you are public comment to speak. We don't always respond, but we will take notes. So, moving on to public hearing. Heather, we have a public hearing on two items. The first is the ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton redevelopment as it relates to the tax increment finance. A call for public comment on this first, and then we have second and final reading. So there's public comment on just this item in the public hearing. First call for public comment on the ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton redevelopment as it relates to the tax increment finance. Second call for public comment for this public hearing on the ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton redevelopment as it relates to tax increment finance. Third and final call for the public comment at this particular public hearing for the ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton redevelopment as it relates to the tax increment finance. Public hearing is closed. Heather, were there changes, updates? I'll ask maybe council has any questions. Would they like anything more on this?
And there was one change as a
Let us
result.
know.
If I could just highlight, there's two items related to the TIF funding that was part of the approved budget. And the two parts, my part's more the words, the redevelopment plan, and then I'll turn it over to Chris Forster, more the numbers. But as immediately following that second item, there were questions about including all of the town-owned properties, specifically some in the historic district that we've recently acquired, and including those on the project list in case there are funds available, and just to extend the flexibility of those TIF dollars. We went ahead and did that after further review. They were captured in the redevelopment plan, so those boundaries, but we did add two just basic projects to include the Sarah Riley Hooks home as well as the Square Pope House. So those were the only changes that were made since first reading, so those have been included in that redevelopment plan.
Any other questions or thoughts? Is that in the motion? Is that included does it need to be added from first to second to include those?
It's been my opinion that does not require going back to first, so I think we're good with the way the motion reads.
Okay. If no questions, is there a motion to approve on second and final reading of the ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton redevelopment plan as it relates to the tax increment finance district? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Number 2, under public hearing and final reading is the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of a, not to exceed $10 million tax increment bond series 2022 or such other appropriate series designation. Sorry. Chris, changes? Does council have other questions of Chris on second and final reading?
Good evening.
Let's
No
do the-
changes.
Let's do the public hearing. Sorry. I
Sorry.
swallowed.
Okay.
First call for public hearing on this item, which is authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $10 million tax increment bond, Series 2022. Sorry. Second call for public comment for this item. Third and final call for public comment of this item at the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Okay. Sorry.
So as was mentioned, the two projects that are added to the project list for the historic properties that are on our CIP, that's Squire Pope and Sarah Riley Hooks. These are just added as potential projects that could be funded through these bond proceeds if there are other delays in the other projects. So other than that, there is no changes since first reading.
Any questions on this? Second and final reading. Really good job on all of this, Chris. Do you have a motion, or I can move it off? That's it. Thank you. If no questions, is there a motion to approve on second and final reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $10 million tax increment bond series 2022 or such other appropriate series designation for the purpose of funding capital improvement projects benefiting the town of Bluffton tax increment financing district?
So moved.
Here, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Kevin, you're up this time. Formal agenda items. Consideration of approval of an amendment to the master plan for the Buckwalter Community Park Master Plan consisting of 142.91 acres of land located on the western side of Bluffton Parkway and zoned Buckwalter planned unit development. And I believe the county had a presentation. I know the farm. This is the park, regional park. Am I correct?
Buckwalter Regional
Okay.
Park, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. So as you stated, this is a master plan amendment. Just provided a copy up here. So Wooden Partners is working on behalf of Beaufort County. So they are here. Representative with Beaufort County is here. In case there are questions, Mr. Mark Sutton, he's the project manager for this. Just kind of give you project location. I've highlighted in yellow subject property. That's again located along Buckwalter Parkway. It's about 142 acres, all the way down to May River Road, and to the north is Hampton Hall. So the applicant is proposing to amend the existing plan. So there's a reduction of soccer fields on the north portion of it, and I've got some images to explain all this. The deletion of a sports pavilion, changing the previously proposed 3 baseball fields to 2 soccer fields, more of a multi-purpose field as well. Maintenance building, a new disc golf course, and then a revised tennis center. So just a couple of housekeeping items. So this property's, it's owned by the town, and there's a intergovernmental agreement with Beaufort County that was recently updated in 2014, and has a continuation of 25 years. So again, consists of 142 acres. Currently, you have the recreational center, the skate park, 3 soccer fields with restrooms, covered seating, the associated drive aisles, parking, lighting, and sidewalks that are out there. So this did go through our Development Review Committee back in December, as well as Planning Commission. Planning Commission voted at their July 27th meeting to make a recommendation to approve the plan as submitted. Again, this is part of the Buckwalter concept plan. It was part of that dedication in 2000 with the original development agreement. Here's a copy of the existing master plan that's on file again, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. One of the major issues that's happened and the reason of the reconfiguration of and reprogramming of sports is that recently there was a wetlands delineation that update. And from that, and you can see I kind of just put a simple graph up top here where the original plan from 2001 had 103 acres upland and 40 acres of wetlands. That has since changed where it's 81 acres of uplands and then 61 acres of wetlands. So you can see there's a difference of 22 acres that is now wetlands that were previously upland. This is my very simple graph to kind of represent the areas that you can see that are now considered wetlands that were previously representative of uplands that had programming in it. Specifically, you can see in the baseball area here. So this is the proposed master plan. I'm going to go through from the northern portion. Previously had the 6 fields, the sports complex. You can see they've now changed that to the 5 fields, the necessary parking that's associated with that. The central portion, they had the 3 baseball fields as well as parking throughout. Again, the northern portion of this site plan here, that's the farm. So you can see that the amount of parking and fields were actually very close to the farm. And with this new addition, you can see that they've actually moved all further away. So now the field that's closest to the farm is 700 feet away. Now, there was one of the concerns, and I've got it on a slide here as well. You can kind of see there's a little line that's running right through here. This is an old logging road that people have kind of been using as a little bit of a path. The intent is that this entire area will be fenced off to prevent individuals from being able to use that area. It is, I say it's a path, it is an overgrown path that is very difficult to get through just by walking. And then the southern portion, which was the had always been proposed as the tennis facility, had I think it was 13 courts, and then the parking out towards the front, and has since changed to the 16 courts. Again, you can see that the closest court is 276 feet from the closest house in Barton's Run, and then the road connection there for Barton's Run, and that was an access easement that was provided by the town and solely constructed by Barton's Run residents. So during Planning Commission, there was various discussion items. One was the replacement of the baseball fields with the multi-purpose fields due to the wetland delineation. The fields being fenced, that was a concern, making sure that from a security standpoint that kids weren't kicking balls or being able to get further out into the wetland area, as well as preventing people from being able to walk through the wetland area over to the farm. The tennis courts being fenced, they wanted to make sure that there was fencing around that, again with the closest house being still 276 feet away. There were some pedestrian accessibility concerns, and that's various areas where you have road connections into the farm as well as Barton Run, just to ensure that there is pedestrian crosswalks over these that are highly visible, so that way as people are walking through that they have the ability to cross these streets, and the motorists are fully aware that they're there. The original plan did have a pool on there as well as a dog park. They've been they've been removed. The need has gone away, as well as the fact that I believe where the dog park was located is very wet. So it is now wetlands, and it's not really appropriate to have dogs running around in a wet area. So there is a disc golf that's been proposed on the plan. There are 9 holes with tee boxes, and if you're not very familiar with disc golf, you're throwing a frisbee into a large basket. And what this does is you'll still be able to use the 9 holes with the various tee boxes where you're throwing the disc off. So it's just a different challenge for each one of those. Also, some of the concerns is dealing with lighting. We work very close with a lot of developments moving forward with lighting to make sure that they're full cutoff. The sports lighting, I think you guys have probably, if you remember a lot of projects, we've been going through those, so they will be having this sports lighting that cuts the lighting off well before it gets to the property line. That'll all be picked up during the development plan review process. Parking's always a concern. We had the applicant, since we don't have a specific parking code, the applicant used their professional judgment to determine the necessary parking. And you can see that the top section refers to required parking, approximately 614 spaces. And then what they're providing is over 665 spaces that are dispersed throughout the site. Review criteria, happy to go over them, but they met all the review criteria. Your action this evening is to approve with conditions, or to deny the application. From a process standpoint, you can see we've been holding the pre-application meetings reviewed by the Development Review Committee, Planning Commission, and then this evening. So I'm able to answer any questions. The applicant, as well as representative from Beaufort County, is here, and they can answer as well.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's a significant difference in terms of the new designation for wetlands. What caused the miss in that prior to?
I am not an engineer, and I'd probably let the applicant speak on behalf of that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'd just be interested to know what happened.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eric Walsnovich, principal with Wooden Partners. We are the land planners, landscape architects for the project, as well as the design team leader. And thank you for listening to the consideration for the master plan amendment tonight. As far as your question goes, we were shocked as well when we got the delineation for the new wetland boundary. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what caused it. Certainly development played a role in my professional opinion. But it was low ground, and water travels low ground. It's the least path of resistance. So unfortunately, it encroached into our acreage, our upland acreage, and we have to deal with what we got left over.
Thank you. Aside from that, I think the project is very exciting. I'm glad to see so much activity going into a park like that. Our youth definitely need it, and we also have a population of community folks here, I think, that would take advantage of the different amenities you're offering. So
thank you. Thank you.
Questions on this side? Yes, Mr. Hamilton?
And this is a question that's coming from Councilman Toomer, who was watching us.
Okay.
After the property, 25-year agreement with the county, who would own the land?
So the town of Bluffton we own the land. So all the programming is through Beaufort County, and then the agreement, and Terry might be able to assist with this as well. But the agreement, it lasts for that 25 years, and then it would just, I would assume, be renegotiated.
The town would always own the land. After 25 years, we'd have to negotiate with the county, year 22, 23, about extending it in some fashion. But the town would always own the land and the improvements.
So that agreement's more for who runs the programmatic side of it? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have, Mayor, I have a couple. So it's a rather large tennis operation, it appears. And with the cry for the need for pickleball seems to be a national phenomenon, and even here, why are we not putting pickleball in there?
I'm a pickleball player, so I can side with that. But basically, the plan that we're showing in the amendment to that, this is the program that was scripted by the county, and it's meeting a county need. May not be the answer pickleball players want to hear, but certainly for this property, in this master plan, tennis center is what's being proposed.
Right.
As
And let me come
in
back.
satisfying a need for the county.
Right, and so in my dealings with the county over the years that I've been sitting here, imagine all of us, it was baseball fields, baseball fields, baseball fields. They could never get enough baseball fields. And now we're building a monumental tennis operation and no baseball fields. And so I didn't understand the connection between no pickleball, no baseball fields. And so I'm trying to understand how they derived, I mean, instead of just the county just saying, and I'm sure there's logic to this, instead of just saying, this is our needs, how did they derive at what the needs are?
We're not saying that there isn't a need for baseball fields.
Right.
There certainly is.
Or pickleball.
Or pickleball.
Right.
It's just this particular project in the land, the script is for a tennis center, which is also a need.
Right.
I know currently the county's going through a recreation needs assessment, and that may help to answer a lot of those questions.
Right.
But for this property and this master plan, the tennis center has always been there. It's a
So was a
USDA.
dog park.
Pardon?
So was a dog park.
Right, yes, correct.
So, okay. I just didn't have.
And
it
it's
right.
unfortunate we lost the 3 baseball fields, which is a need.
Right.
But the land mass to have a baseball field complex is just not there.
Well, I saw,
Yeah.
you showed some of it left.
So
Anyway,
now
I
it's
was
the
just
county.
curious, I didn't
Sure.
understand, because I know what I've always heard, and I think we all probably hear similar information about the public needs. But thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question. I would urge you to go to a pickleball court before we decide to put one in the middle of a residential area. It's the loudest. 4 pickleball courts in one community causes more noise than a lot of motorcycles riding down the road.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's amazingly loud, and these residents would hit the roof. The lighting I have seen at Christian Academy, and I actually wasn't sure, trust but verify, and it really does cut off. It is just amazing. Pinecrest is not affected at all. So I'm glad we've used that in other projects. So timing, who dictates the rules of this park? And the reason I ask, and maybe it's not you, it might be us, will the parks be closed at night like the rest of Buckwalter? Are we gonna, we're gonna have police that are gonna have to monitor it as well. So I guess I just, is there gonna be nighttime disc golf? Or will the parks all close at night like the Buckwalter Park does now? And I know you don't know it.
Yeah,
Eric.
I was going to say, that's a county operations.
Can we check on that?
Yeah, Mark may be
Oh,
able to
Mark,
speak to that.
here he comes. Yeah.
I would just like to say that we do have a very robust Parks and Recreation Department. Shannon Loper runs that for us. She, I know she doesn't do it by herself, but she determines the schedules and mixing up schedules and times. We certainly don't want to run anything that's a nuisance. We wouldn't run it late at night. I understood a complaint on a pickleball project that it was 7 to 10. I couldn't imagine us doing anything like that. But I will say our whole intent was to build a state-of-the-art facility regardless of what it was. And when you got into having basketball, baseball, football, everything, it took away from the whole importance of one particular thing. So we have a lot of property, a lot of parks. And I don't make these calls, but I know there's talks of pickleball, there's talks of other dog parks. I would tell you that the whole facility is already a dog park. So you can certainly take your animal there and clean up after them. But the tennis center, we had a chance to do a couple of small tennis courts, but we wanted a state-of-the-art tennis center. We want soccer that's nice enough that people would want to come there and use the fields. And baseball hasn't gone away by no means. We have other facilities with baseball that may even be expanded, but that's just another project. Wooden Partners are currently doing a master plan program for us of all our recreation opportunities. So we're not there yet, but the county's been running for quite some time, and there's smarter people there than me. But I know that they're working on it, and we're not abandoning anyone's sport. We certainly don't want a pool there because we have four pools now that are a lot of issues with them. So we're fixing the ones we have before we'll start another one. But again, I'm not the representative to comment on that as much.
It's fine. I just didn't want their residents, and I'm very respectful of neighborhoods where now things are getting plopped in the middle of them. And I just want to, and I know they've been here at the farm for cookout with the cops and talked to some residents, but just monitor and we can get with Shannon.
Sure.
But I think we need to at least address
I'm quite
where
sure.
play in a because the soccer fields you don't see. You're closer to Hampton Hall and it's hundreds and hundreds of feet. So just thoughts, but thank you.
Thank you for filling us in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Any other questions, council?
This question is probably for Terry or Stephen. I mean, you probably can't answer it today, but it's another tumor question. If at the end of the 25-year or any time we take over the, if the towns decide that we want to be in the park business, will we own these improvements?
Yes.
So everything done is, we have an agreement for management. So anything done,
So their agreement right now is obviously the improvements, maintenance of the facilities, and then I would kind of leave it to Terry as to at that end time frame what happens.
any other questions of Kevin? This is an amendment, so one and done, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If nothing else, is there an approval, a motion to approve the amendment to the master plan for Buckwalter Community Park Master Plan consisting of plus or minus 142.91 acres of land located along the western side of Buckwalter Parkway and zone Buckwalter planned unit development?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'm going to take public comment on this before you.
Second?
Second.
Is there a public comment?
No, there's
All
no.
in
Harry, why is there no public comment?
favor of saying aye?
Why is that?
Aye. Opposed?
Not required.
Next, we have consideration of an ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals. Heather, this is first reading. Good evening.
Why sit here? It's a waste of time.
I agree.
Okay, Heather, you're
Okay.
up. Thank you.
So this is coming before you as a proposed ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals. And this is as it relates to Beaufort County, changes that they recently had and approved with their Code of Ordinances that really reflect changes in state law. So just a very brief presentation. So again, Beaufort County Council, they adopted recent text amendments on third reading in April of the same ordinance. And we have had the same ordinance and reflected the same ordinance as Beaufort County. They are also the ones that enforce enforce the animal control regulations. So that's part of that. And we do have an IGA to do that. Beaufort County then requested that we consider the adoption of the proposed ordinance again, and the point is that to enforce them within the municipal limits, just to be seamless, uniform regulations within the county. The proposed amendments, again, really reflect changes in state law, focus on voice control. Voice control has been eliminated as an exception to the leash law. We did make sure that we researched that we would still be okay with dog parks. Dog parks, this will not affect that. That is a place that you are invited to take your dogs. You're in a fenced-in area, and we have been assured that can remain the way it is. Some other changes just about dog breed determinations, neglect, and as well as beach exemptions, which does not have an effect with the town of Bluffton. Again, this is first reading of the ordinance. You all know, but it's up here on the screen. You can approve that as presented, approve it with revisions. We would ask that we would take that back to the county to get their feedback or disapprove, and again, work with the county on any information that you need to go further. If this does move forward with a recommendation of approval, then it would be followed by a second reading. And at that same agenda, we would also include an agenda item as it relates to the IGA to make sure that everything is codified together and works together. We did invite Lula Trice, the Animal Services Director, as well as Brittany Ward from the county, the Beaufort County Deputy Attorney, to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Is that y'all? Couldn't see who you were. I wasn't quite sure why you were standing up.
Can you go back?
Okay, if y'all can come forward and actually we can meet y'all and it's,
Go back one more. Yeah, right there. That's it.
okay. So questions, and Fred, do you have a question? How are y'all?
Great, how are you?
Good, okay.
Good to see you again.
You as well, sir.
All right, how you doing? Voice control.
Yes, sir.
Have that been tried and tested?
Voice control was actually removed from the county ordinances. So the state code was recently amended, specifying that in order to have control over an animal, you actually have to have physical control, meaning a leash. So voice control has actually been removed from our ordinance.
Any other questions of this? I mean, I love that you're looking at it and making corrections. We all can, he always says, know better, do better. So
There is one other amendment that we have pointed out to all the municipalities, and that's concerning a dangerous dog determination. That has been a big issue with throughout the county, and specifically when it comes to young dogs that get in situations whereby we all hate, but whether it's a child or another dog has been injured, her staff goes forward and prosecutes it as a dangerous dog determination. In doing that, I've worked with the court system, and we've all come to the conclusion that it would probably be beneficial to all parties to have a lesser included charge to the dangerous dog determination that will place restrictions on dogs that are caught in situations like that, but they are not going to be binded by the regulations that we place on a dangerous dog. So that is a major attribute that I think we're proud of, to make sure that dogs get what they need as far as control and restraint, but we're not limiting them when your dog's 2 years old and something happens.
So do all the municipalities have you presented to them, or are we the first one to?
We are running the circuit, but no.
We're going to set the pace.
We have been to Hilton Head about 2 weeks ago. So we have Yemassee middle of September, and Port Royal, I'm not sure, already has it on the agenda, and Beaufort.
Well, it's interesting. This came before us years ago, and it was quite upsetting to some people, but I think you've proven that we need it.
Yes.
And like I said, I appreciate you looking and seeing, housekeeping really and following state statute or law and making the changes.
Always have to update it. And the state's actually following us with the pit bull spay neuter. So I'm on the state board of animal control, and they're pushing a state law. Yeah, nothing against the breed.
No.
It's just, we're just trying to reduce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Anything else from council?
I do live in Bluffton.
Bluffton resident.
Well,
I've had the privilege of working on a number of matters with Ms. Ward over the years, and her rationality is always welcome.
You live close to the dog park.
Yes, I do.
well, I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
here. Okay, if nothing else, is there a motion to consider the ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals, first reading? We'll see y'all again next. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Any discussion? This is first of 2 readings, and we will have this back on for final reading next month, hopefully. All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. So we have several consent agenda items. Is there anything anyone would like removed for more discussion?
I would like discussion from the PD.
Okay. I've learned from last month, we're going to vote on something. Since that's not really a vote, let's vote on the whole consent agenda. And then if, Chief, you could come up after we vote on it, Bridget can ask her questions. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve the items listed under the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Chief. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
I just had a question on, I'm looking on page 202 of the agenda for anyone else. wanted to follow. I see the report out of the involvement of our mental health advocate, and just had some questions in terms of, are there any specifics that we could get in terms of, I just see the numbers, but no correlation in terms of like a success rate, or like if the follow-up that we're doing, is it effective? Or even what the level or the extent of our follow-up is in terms of like the 7 crisis intervention calls and then case follow-ups. Just wanted to get some more details on what all that is.
Absolutely, and,
We want this for reference.
yes, Mr. Steves has a report that has been submitted, and I'm certain he'll be passing it on to council as soon as he's done perusing it. But we absolutely have that, and we have done some case synopsis on things that you can see. And also, I'd like to say, without, of course, divulging any details that we shouldn't, such as, either victim, suspect information or anything like that. But a few of the ones that we followed up on are, and these are just the titles of the reports, but it also talks about what is the outcome of that. So altered mental status, the subject was transported to hospital, and then we notified the subject's sibling. So these are all follow-ups that Ms. Anderson's done. Stolen vehicle, they conducted a follow-up and provided resources. So suicide threats, conducted a follow-up and provided contact information for further assistance, and we've really been keeping track of this from June and into July, so you can see these, and I'm sure we have no problem, of course, giving you this. It's actually for y'all. So health and welfare check, de-escalated the subject and notified the subject's spouse. So it's not just about the services to the subject or the person in question, it's about resources to their families as well, which they may or may not know exist.
And that's more so what I wanted, because I understand and don't want, to know like their names and what's going on, but more so, who do we partner with in terms of, is it NAMI, is it other behavioral mental organizations within the area in terms of seeing like how our progress of this particular role and its benefit to the person in crisis, like what that is and what that looks like.
Absolutely, and I believe you received an email just today, and it also talked about Miss Anderson and all the officers that helped one particular gentleman and his family when they were going through time of crisis. So please check your emails for that. I know Mr. Steves sent it right before council, so I'm sure you haven't had a chance to look at it, but please see how much those services are needed. And as you mentioned, NAMI and all the other resources, Hannah has spent a great deal of time, and the report shows that it's basically a synopsis of what she's done in preparation for the 6 months that she's been here and kind of where we're planning to go. We're also planning in October, when she has been here a full year, of giving you a full report of what's been done, exactly what she did. For instance, building, the standard operation procedures and actually writing and co-responding with officers, which she's currently doing now twice a week. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, she's actually working afternoons and into evenings, and you'll see her out on the calls with the officers. She was out at the Oscar Frazier Park Call, and she's helping not just the officers, and of course, and the citizens as well, and being there in the field to see what's going on and helping her understand. So we'll gladly forward this to you whenever we get the approval.
I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Okay. Would you like me to go on about, I can read all these to you if you'd like. Got no problem with that.
No, I was more so wanting to hear like what the process is. I guess I'm still.
The process is, so thank you for asking that. I appreciate it. So the process is, so we become aware either through contact of the police or 911, or basically just talking to citizens, that they may have some questions about mental health or resources. And so what the officers do is they notify and send the report to Hannah, and they tell them, hey, this is their contact information. Hannah then immediately, usually it's within 24 hours, actually it's quite less, follows up with them and just sits and talks with them about what's going on with their situation. And then she has spent, the 6-8 months really building her resources. And so she directs them to appropriate resources, be it NAMI, be it, food assistance, be it, home assistance or utilities. There's a lot of times people just really need to talk. So, and she also does aftercare follow-ups, like if they go to the hospital on a call from officers, she certainly, she can't help in the actual time of crisis, but she tries to help before the crisis happens, and then she also follows up with them afterwards. So after she does that, she makes notes and she writes reports. And depending on how their, services are going from the medical professionals, she either keeps following up with them on the families if they want her to, or she'll direct them to other resources like spiritual resources as well. So that's what she does until she feels like they really no longer need her assistance and they have the resources available and at least have the information available to get the help that they need. Did that help? Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
It made me think of a couple of things. The new 918, I think it is. What's the mental health?
988.
988. Where are we on that? Where is our connection with that in South Carolina?
I don't know. I can absolutely check up with you on that. I know that it's up and running, but I don't know any successes or how many calls they've had or anything like that, but I can absolutely check on that.
Okay, and that's where I was thinking where she integrated within that, and then I thought about that article that I read about 988. I need to change that. Is she linked into that? Like, is it 911? If I called and I'm in Bluffton and a crazy man comes and yells at me in the parking lot, and I call 911, they send it to you because I'm in Bluffton. But if somebody that's having real trauma mentally calls 988, who answers it? And I know you've got to find out who answers it, and does that go to who we have, which is Hannah? But I know other municipalities don't have that, so I would be curious on that.
No, when you call the number, it asks you which state you're in, and so it'll prompt you to a mental health professional in that particular state because it gives you immediate contact with a live person who'll talk to you, like walk you through it. But the idea behind it was not to be aligned with 911 in a sense of not to make it a criminal thing, just to make it you in crisis. But that would be a good idea somehow to connect it with.
For her to reach out to them, maybe, and I don't know the HIPAA and the whole thing, and I get it, and I don't want to know. And one other thing, I read your report, in this last report, I can't remember if it was day or night, but and I know we just get a snapshot, but every single item had to do with mental illness, every single one. So are those, say there were 4, breakdowns, are those considered 4 cases for her?
Yes, those are considered 4 follow-ups with her to contact each one of the parties that are involved, particularly the person that's most, she starts with, the person in question per se. But then, of course, if there's family involved and they're listed in the report and they have contact information, she has absolutely no problem reaching out to them and asking them, do you need resources and what can we do for you? And did you know this was available?
So one case is one follow-up, but it could be 7 different meetings. Those aren't 7 follow-ups. It's still just one follow-up.
Yes.
Okay, so 26 follow-ups could be 100 different phone numbers.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I would love for her to come when she's got her, she's in and she's ready because, as you know and you've seen, we've gotten a lot of hype over it. I really appreciate her and Bridget. I said last month, I guess. No, sometime you were here. The interview was fabulous. I hope everyone knows how important her role is and they support it because it is new. It's not normal. It's a little change. So, just comments. So
the CALEA assessors, by the way, were very interested. As you know, we went through accreditation the last 2 days. They were very interested and complimentary of our community mental health advocate program, and they were hoping to take that to other areas. So
anything on
I applaud
on this one subject? Thank you, and we look forward to the updates. Okay. Anything from anyone? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Thank you.